I've done my, I did my yoga and I did my stretching and I did my sit-ups, I did my push-ups, and I also had a neighbor actually come up and help me put my stove back together because I cleaned out the top of the elements and I couldn't get the elements back on. And I was thinking, damn, I'm gonna get shocked. So there's a fella in my building and he's very helpful. And yeah, so he actually came in and helped me put the elements back in. So I got that all cleaned up, everything's done, and I decided, yeah, I'm going to sit down and read some of my cookbooks because toward the end of the month, I usually get low on groceries, and so I like to bake things. I like to bake things, and I've been looking at um, what's it called? It's date bread with dates and things like that, and they're healthy for you. So I'm gonna get some at the end of the month when I do my grocery shopping, and I'm going to bake some, and it's a date bread, and it's going to give me not only that fiber, but it's going to give me, a fruit, right? I mean, a date, I believe, is a fruit. So there you go. And to have like something after a meal, something that has a little bit of kick to it, a little bit of sweet, that's okay without the sugar. So I'm going to use like honey and I'm going to use walnuts and things like that and the dates. So I'm excited about that. Yeah. So I pulled out some of my cookbooks and I was looking through them. I have this one cookbook and I'm going to do this today because I just think it's important to know. So this is the cookbook. I got it at a thrift store. I think I didn't even know what the price was. I think I paid 50 cents for it. They were giving them at really low price, and I love these books. I have bought a whole bunch from the thrift stores, right? So the reason why I picked this up is because it's paleo. And paleo, I actually asked AI, I said, that when they do that thing, you ask them a question and they find the answer on your computer or your phone. I asked, and they kept saying to me, the computer kept saying to me, sorry, I don't understand your question. Paleo, like freak, paleo, look at it, read it. So apparently, I wanted to know what exactly it is. And apparently, it's kind of getting back to basics, right? It's getting back to eating meat and like the way people used to eat in the old days. Um, the way this girl is talking in the cookbook, she's talking about the fact that grains are not, they're not meant for us to eat. They're meant for the birds, right? I eat grains, I do, and I do bloat up from them. I do get inflammation from them, and a lot of the times you get that inflammation because, like I said before in previous videos, they're filled with lectins. Chickpeas are filled with lectins. Any type of grain that you get, like whole wheat grain, those things, they're filled with lectins. And so that creates issues for your health. It creates inflammation and bloating. It does. It creates a lot of issues like leaky gut and things like that. So when I buy my canned goods, I buy my beans and my peas and things like that as canned goods because that high heat will get rid of 95% of those lectins. So I choose to buy my chickpeas, my kidney beans, those type of things in the can. I do have dehydrated ones, and I do have the dry kidney beans, and you have to boil the hell out of them. So anyway, the first chapter of this book I found really, really interesting, and it talks about like basically a set of rules, right? A set of rules that you can live by if you have a family. And so I raised three kids on my own, and so I had to have a semblance of all these things. And I made my mistakes along the way. I really did, but I just wanted to kind of reiterate it, kind of bring this up again and like go through it and think in my mind, did I do that? Right? So I'm kind of going through the checklist I had as a single mom and did I do what I needed to do? And I don't think I did perfect, but I did pretty damn good. So we're gonna do it. It's in the first chapter. Okay, so I have to close my window because I have neighbors that smoke, and this is a non-smoking building, and they don't pay attention to that. They just smoke their lungs out. They just don't care. They don't care about rules. There's people in this world that just don't have consequences, and that's one of the steps. Okay, so we'll start with the first one. Okay, so step number one. Okay, step number one says, it feels good to be heard. And what they're saying is turn off the phone or the computer or the TV or any other electronic device that's going to distract you while your little ones tell you something important. This is tough because what kids tell you may always be important. and you can't always stop everything to listen intently. Ain't that the truth? Yeah, ain't that the truth? I've been going through that lately. Only it's vice versa. Now I'm the elder parent, and so it's like I'm too busy to listen to that, right? So here we go. Okay, so what it says is this is tough because when kids tell you things, you may be busy. You may be busy, and it says, but do you know that when it really matters is now? Okay, so take the time to crouch down to their height level, ignore everything else, soak up every precious word in order to respond accordingly. Because kids love it when they're really heard. And believe it or not, by listening intently to your kids, you will see a decrease in behavioral issues. And as a young woman, a young adult, I was working in a field. Sorry, I got lipstick there. I was working in a field where I taught behavior modification. And I actually taught behavior modification in an elementary school. And yeah, those were part of the prerequisites of the program, where you would teach children consequences, but you would also teach them how to use their voices, right? So I found it very, very intriguing. My cat's interested too. Okay, so um, the cat's trying to get my attention. So kids love it when they're really heard, and believe it or not, by simply listening intently, you're going to see a decrease in those behavioral issues. Why? Why? Because they will stop fighting to gain your validation. We have to remember that to a child, what they are upset or excited about feels important to them. Just as us as adults, we may get upset and excited when something is important to us, okay? So even if what they're telling us seems trivial, like someone stuck their tongue out at me today at school, right? To us, it might seem trivial, but to them, it's important. It's very important. So as adults, we understand this. We want to be heard when we have something important to say, and so do the kids. So do our kids. So this one small act will give you minutes in your day with your kids, and you won't even realize that you're taking that additional time to actually listen to what they say. It's going to become innate. It's going to be something that's routine for you, okay? That phone call or that text message can wait. The kids need to go to the top of that list, okay? So when your kids need to talk to you, they should not be put on hold. I never did that. I never put them on hold. I didn't. Nope, did not. Check one. I like this one though. I really like this one because it says, ask real questions and expect real answers, a real response, okay? And do it in a secure spot. Like do it around, if you're eating supper, one of the rules in here is first and foremost, make it a rule that you eat dinner together and at the table. And at that point in time, that's where family discussions will take place. So make it a habit, make it a routine, okay? So here's the questions that they say don't bother asking, okay? What did you learn at school today? That's a stupid question. Don't ask them that. No. Those questions are boring and they're meaningless. They're meaningless, really. They're meaningless. I want you to get your family really talking, like actually talking on things that matter to the family unit, okay? Okay. So when you sit down together, you ask each child, what was the best thing that happened to you today? And what was the worst thing that happened to you today? And then it says, it's kind of reciprocal, right? So it says the grown-ups also get their chance. So the best thing and the worst thing that happened to them during their day. And hopefully the kids will listen. And you might even get a little bit, oh, Mom, oh, Dad, I'm sorry. That's awful. Or that's good. You did really good today, Dad, right? It's good to get that reciprocal pat on the back. But remember, your kids thrive on it. They need it. They need it to move into that next level of their maturity, okay? If you tell your kid you're not going to make anything of yourself, then that kid's going to be defeated before they even start. Seriously, right? So a good parent would say, you can be anything you want to be. You're smart, you're beautiful, you're intelligent, you're well-rounded, and you got this. Yeah. You don't tell them. This is what you don't tell them. Oh, you'll never do that. You'll never amount to anything. If you're saying that to your kids, listen, get off that train and, go elsewhere. You're horrible. You're just a horrible person. Don't tell your kid they're not going to amount to anything. How do you think that makes you feel or them feel? And how would you feel if that was said to you? Like, and maybe it was, maybe that's the cycle, right? It's that cycle of abuse, but it is abusive. So be aware of that. Be aware of that. Okay, number 2, ask real questions, like I said. Ask real questions and ask or look for real responses, like real answers, right? So what was your worst thing today? Well, I had a pretty good day. No, no, what was the worst thing that happened to you today? Think about what happened during your day, right? What was the best thing that happened to you today? Did you say hi to your friend? Did you see that girl that you like so much and you said hi to her and she said back, right? But you want real responses. You want things that come from the heart. You don't want a superficial answer, right? Oh, I got an A plus on the test, right? Well, how did getting that A plus make you feel? Okay, you have to elicit real responses from your children, not fake ones. Yeah. So it says here that our kids have a chance to hear us talk about our days, and that makes them feel what? Included. They feel included. So speaking to your child, I mean, you get home from work and your child's home from school, and they say, "Mom, hi," and you say, "Oh, I had quite the day today." Well, Mom, what happened on your day? Well, sit down, take that time instead of running to the kitchen to get a coffee or a drink or whatever, right? You sit down and you tell them what happened during your day. Make a conversation of it, right? So I think this is a really good book. And it says, this lady says, I often get amazing advice from my own children that surprises and delights me. My kids report that there was nothing worse and that everything was good at school, right? But if there was a worst moment, there is our chance as a family to work through it. And we usually come out the other side laughing. So, making that family time important and making it a routine is a very important thing, right? A very important thing. If your kids come home from school and they drop their books on the floor and off they go to their neighbors and they don't come back for hours and hours and you don't see them until bedtime, there has to be some rules, right? There has to be some family time, and that's important. And if you're, a single parent, like, bless your heart, because I know what that's like. So let's say you're working double shifts and you're working really hard to pay that rent, to pay that bill, and to pay the car bill and the insurance and the phones and the whole bit, right? You're putting that effort in. You also need some downtime. But if you're putting that effort in, you're putting that effort in for your family. You're putting that effort in to maintain a stable home environment. Yes, that's right. But that stable home environment revolves around those children. They are the mainstay. They are the foundation of the reason why you're doing all that work, okay? So you have to realize that, and you have to budget your time accordingly, where your job gets this block of time, and when you're off work, you're off work. That's family time. That's children time. That's your time, okay? So be aware of that. Okay, so we got that out of the question. Now, the third rule, okay? Play just for the fun of it. Okay, so it talks about the fact that, let's see, okay, so your little ones are only little once, yeah. And I know that wholeheartedly. Oh, I miss them so much when they were little because they were so good. My kids were so good. They were such wonderful kids, okay? Not too often they got in a scrap, but they did. My middle daughter and my son used to fight over his trucks all the time. They used to fight over the toys all the time. But she always won out, and he would play chicken a little bit, like, oh, I want my toy back, right? That type of stuff. But it was all in good, and she ended up being, my middle daughter was very protective of my son, like extremely protective of him. And so when it got into the toy thing, it was a little bit of a tug of war, power struggle, but right. So it's important. It really is important to enjoy playtime. Okay, so let's see where it was here. So they're little ones, but they'll be grown, and you'll wish for those days of Hot Wheel tournaments and dress up parties. Oh yeah, I do so much. So do. Um, this lady is saying that when she found out, when she let go of everything else on her mind, she was playing with her kids, she actually did have fun, and the kids had fun. Kids learn through play. Okay, so giving them that experience to experience losing the game, or just having playing a game for fun, like playing soccer and not worried about who's kicking the ball and who's getting it in the net, right? I used to take my kids when they were teenagers. You could ask them this. I would take them when they were teenagers to the high school, and we lived close to the high school, and we would go out in the field. We would play football, touch football, tag football. Ask them. It's true. It's so true. It was so much fun. There was even a couple of times where I had them running around the track. We would do a couple of laps around the track, right? So trying to instill in them that fitness is important. And I think I did a pretty good job because, I think I did a pretty good job. They all were involved in sports. In fact, my son ended up being a pole vaulter, and he did win a competition at one time for overall of. I live in Canada, and for overall of the province that I live in that area, he won the overall championship for that group of his peers. So I was excited. I was excited. When he was going over that pole, I remember just praying, do it, do it, do it. You're doing it. I would manifest. I would visualize him just flying over that pole, right? So it was fun. It was fun. They're doing construction next door, so you're going to hear that. It sounds like someone screaming. It's probably my neighbors. It really does sound like someone screaming. Okay. Okay, so children actually work through their problems by playing, because unlike adults, they're not capable of always talking about their feelings, but they can play and act it out. And like when we were kids, we used to play house, right? I remember I was a very demure child, like a young, maybe 5, 6 years old. I was very quiet and very kind of like laid back, kind of like kept to myself. And I didn't have a large circle of friends. And I remember at school they had a fire escape that would come out from the building, and there was like a space underneath, and I used to play house in that space. I used to, because I had no one to play with, so I would pretend I owned a house, and I had like 4 bedrooms, and I had a kitchen and a dining room, and it was very different from what I lived through as a child. We weren't wealthy. We were extremely poor, like below poverty line. And so yeah, it was really, really tough. And so I used to go to school and play, and that's how I learned those things. That's how I learned that, even though things seemed dire, I knew that the future would bring better things, and it did. It did. Okay, so children learn by playing, and they work through their problems like I did through playing. Um, because we don't learn as children to talk about our feelings. And myself, I wasn't given that opportunity to talk about what was taking place in my life, right? And there was a lot of things that were not good that were taking place. Um, okay, so it says, remember, playing with your children is not for the sole purpose of entertaining them. When playing sounds difficult, I think about what I would be missing out if I didn't get down to the height level of my children, and what my children would be missing out on sharing with me. I would miss the leaves shaped like elephants. Oh, I remember doing this with the kids. And the clouds that were dancing. And the ant that's very strong and it's carrying a load twice its size or as big as its body. So there were learning experience put into play, right? And that's so true. I used to stop the car on the side of the road, and the kids and I would jump out of the car and we would walk through the bush. And I would teach them about trees and things like that. So it was play, it was an adventure, and it taught them things, and that is important. So let's see, how many is there? I think there's 10. There's 10. Yeah, okay, so we're on 4. It says, spend more time in nature with your family. I used to walk with my kids all the time in the bush. But back in those days, I don't know, I was a fool. Because I wasn't worried about animals or bears or wolves or, wolverines, any of those things, right? I was like young and a little foolish, right? But now I'd be a little bit more cautious. Yeah, I would. But I mean, if you camp and if you have a cabin or a cottage, okay, certainly take that time to spend that downtime with your children and teach them things. Look for bugs. We built, when I was a kid, my mom used to grow sunflowers in the garden. And we, well, not we, but I did. I would take those sunflower stalks, and my mom would tie them together, and she would make me a little house, a little fort in the garden when they were dried, and the stalks were like dried and kind of like hard, right? I remember doing that. I remember my mom doing that. I remember when we lived on the farm, I used to climb the hill, and I was terrified of animals. I just didn't think about it back then. We're talking 60s, 70s, right? And I would climb the hill next door, and I would go underneath the trees, and I would build myself a little fort and sit there for hours by myself. And nobody was looking for me. Nobody was looking for me. Nobody was too concerned about where I was because we grew up that way, right? So, um, I'm not saying to do that, but I am saying that, a lot of the things that we did as kids taught us, right? It taught me independence. It taught me how to fare for myself. I mean, if I fell, I wasn't a crier. If I fell, I wasn't a crier. I was pretty tough. I was pretty tough. Yeah. Okay, so just playing for the fun of it, spending more time in nature, which I think I lost the page here. Okay. Um, Spend more time in nature with your family. Okay, whether it's dark or light, go outside and look up at the sky. I do that all the time. I love the stars. And when I was a little girl, I remember laying on my bed with the curtain open and looking at the stars. Yeah, and I seen the satellites, and I seen things that I thought were UFOs, and they would go in the sky and they'd go here and then they go and they were gone, right? And so I thought, well, that's a UFO, right? So I grew up with with those things, right? I grew up with seeing the stars, the Big Dipper and the Milky Way and those things. And I even remember seeing, what do you call that? The Aurora Borealis. I didn't live way up north, but the skies were so clean back in my day that I could see that. And we would see it flickering through many times in the evening sky. And my mom would take us out, and we would sit outside on the lawn chairs, and we would look at it. We would watch the Aurora Borealis. I remember that as clear as can be. So, it's important to do those things, whether it's day, night, evening, right? To teach your children things, to teach your children things about their universe, their environment. The stars, the moon, the sun, okay? Those things. It's important. It really is. Help them notice these things, and they'll want to be outside. They won't want to be, sitting on the couch watching TV or playing on their computers all the time. And that's a problem that I notice even with the people that I know now. Their children spend more time on the TV and on the couch. My granddaughter is young, and my granddaughter is always active. She's always active. She has a strong group of friends, very tight group of friends, and they will do things like climb trees, build forts, like they will do those things, right? So it's good to see that. It's good to see that my family member has instilled that in their children, right? So that's a blessing. I like that. That's healthy. Okay, so number 5. We just talked about this. Schedule your computer time, your technological time, right? Your technology time. Schedule it. So schedule it. Make a written agreement with yourself about the time you will spend on your computer and the time you will allow yourself to enjoy social media. The computer is a time warp. Yeah, it is. It is. There is an entire world at your fingertips. It's exciting, it's fun, and it's incredibly useful. It really is. So the computer isn't a bad thing, and the knowledge you pick up from a computer isn't necessarily a bad thing. It keeps you in touch with your world, okay? But people abuse it. They abuse it, and they use it constantly, and it's a big expense. It really, really is. And sometimes you get caught up and sucked in so deep that you might forget that there's an outside world there and that you're actually living in it. Okay, so it talks about, this lady says her career sprouted through the web, the World Wide Web. Okay, so she knows what it's all about, and I know too because I have a YouTube channel. Yeah, so it says, trust her. She loves it just like you. She likes that time, but she has to find a balance, and that's where I've found that balance. Okay, I only spend a certain amount of time on this computer. The more I spend more time with my phone just to make phone calls just to connect with other people. And I do like Facebook. However, Facebook doesn't allow you to post the news thanks to Canadian government. So if I'm interested in something and I think someone I know would be interested in, then they're going to have to find it on their own because I can't post it on my Facebook. So that's a little bit of a piss off. So a lot of our freedoms are being stripped and we don't even realize it. But I still think that you should schedule that time. So, from the morning hours, I think, should be off. It should be off the computer completely. The evening hours should be off the computer. Um, I think that there should, for me, right, if I was raising children, I think after supper through to, well, I don't know, after supper, because some people, their supper is a little bit waylaid, right, because of jobs. So I would pick a time that is appropriate for your family and your family schedule, not my schedule, your schedule or anyone else's schedule. So, from 6 o'clock to 7 o'clock, 5 o'clock to 6 o'clock, 4 o'clock to 5 o'clock. I think kids get out of school at 3:30, right? So let's say 4 o'clock till, there should be a semblance of time where they come home and they unwind, and give them that little bit of time there to unwind from the day from work, right? Or from school. And they should be outside playing in the backyard and spending time with their peers on a more fun level instead of a learning level, right? But pick an hour or so where that child can literally find things on the internet that interest them, but be very cautious of what they're watching and indeed who they are connecting with on the net. There's a lot of weirdos out there. Okay, so the sixth one. Hmm. I want to say this first, though. It says, most important, give yourself at least 2 full days a week in which you take a total break from anything technology related. Okay. It says that I understand that because of work, this break might not be possible. But if you have to check in because your career depends on it, okay, only work related activities on your technological free days, and stay away from surfing, tweeting, shopping, or updating. Technology free days are good for weekends when families spend the most time together. So that's an important issue. I really think that's important. Yeah. So number 6. So not only schedule your time on the computer or the phone, and the TV, right? Schedule your children's time. So it's a reciprocal thing here. Remember, here's the important part, right? You're not their friend. You're not their friend. You're not your children's friend. You are the parent. You are in charge. And if you make the rules and you stick to them yourself, your children will respect and love you for it, although they might not act that way at first. So they're going to kick up a fuss. So I know that TV and video games are easy to turn to because they keep the kids occupied so that you can get stuff done. And I did that. I did that. I did. I did. I have to admit it. There were certain shows that I knew. They loved the Smurfs. They loved Power Rangers. I remember that. I did have to not cancel, but close out my kids' rights to watch certain shows. There was one particular show called the Power Rangers. And at first I thought it was fun. It was a fantasy-filled type thing, and it was teaching them internal power and how to use that power constructively. Okay? Yeah. Well, then all of a sudden I had a child, and I won't say which one, but this child created a new Power Ranger, and it was a black Power Ranger. Yeah. Yeah. So it was, we won't get into it, but I had to literally shut that channel down, and I didn't allow them to watch that channel for a period of time. There had to be a consequence for some of the things that they were kind of bringing to the forefront, right? Okay, so. Okay, so it says the most important thing here is 30 minutes of computer games twice a week, 1 hour of video games on the weekend, 30 minutes of television in the evening, or better yet, no TV during the week. That would be tough. That would be tough. Okay, so it says play with the schedule and make it work for your family, but it's a good starting point. She suggests that you get rid of your cable service altogether. Beyond adding to quality time spent with one another, no cable TV will save you money, and that's the truth. You can get the internet and not need to have cable TV, right? But what they're doing now, the cable companies, is they're including in that package to give you a cheaper deal. You can get, if you take the cable and the internet, okay, you get a cheaper deal. But over the long run, it will save you mind time and it will save you money, right? So be aware of that. Yeah, she says nixing the cable TV brought them all closer together. Oh, that's true. I think that would work. I spent a lot of time outside with my kids. I would lift weights as a young woman. I would do it on the back porch, and the kids had a little set of weights, and they would be out there with me trying. And we did get them, well, I did, got them a tree house that they played in religiously with the neighbor kids. So, yeah, there was a lot of things, a lot of time spent outside, a lot of time. Okay, so number 7. This one's important. And I just had to put up with this past weekend, okay? So the word is no. Say it after me. No. No. That's it. Walk away. Okay, so listen. So it says, do you find yourself constantly rushing to the next thing without really enjoying what's happening? Are you always pushing your kids at the door and cramming them into the car seat, snapping at them to hurry up? And wondering why you have so few hours left in the day. Maybe you need to cut back a little. Do you have to have your kids in karate, banjo, ballet, archery, or gymnastics? Or do you think that maybe just 1 or 2 of those activities will result in fabulous, well-rounded kids? Well, I think 1 would be good. I think 1. Volleyball or football or track and field, right? Or what's that called? Soccer. Those type of things, even badminton and rugby. But one, don't over and do don't take up all their spare time with sport. One sport will do. One sport will do. I said to my kids, you have 1 social activity, 1 sports activity, and 1 community activity. And they stuck to it in high school. They each had a sports activity. They belonged to a group at school. They would do volunteer work with things. I mean, it was amazing. It was amazing. So, 1 sport, 1 social, and 1 community-based club, right? So that's a good thing. Okay. And it says in here, a sport and a volunteer day. Yeah. So that's a good thing. So I got another check mark there. I didn't do as bad as I thought I did. Yeah. Okay, this is a really good one here. What kids really need from their parents is simple. They need you to be present in their life. Yeah, yeah. And they need plenty of time to play. They don't need to be enriched by every single enrichment program in existence. They need to be loved, and they need you to listen to them. They need rules, they need boundaries, and responsibilities. They need the freedom to express themselves. They need to feel as if they are a contributing part of their family unit, so they grow up understanding what it means to take care of themselves and others. So it's going to help them when they grow up and they have their own children to become contributing members of society. They need you to slow down. They need to cook dinner with you, not you cook it for them, with you. That's a good one. They need to sit down and talk and play with you at times. That's it. They just need you. So when someone asks you to do something extra, an extra day at work or an extra thing on the side where you're going to be taken out of your environment and away from your kids for 6 hours, 7 hours, someone's asking you to do 300 field trips or get involved at the PTA, just say, what's the word? Just say no. No. Okay, number 8. This is about you. Okay, so number 8, have a date night. Yeah. So you have to think about yourself too, right? You have to think about your mental wellness, okay? So here's a wild idea, it says. Beyond the occasional weekend night out, try to have a date night once a week in the middle of the week when the kids have homework. Yeah. When they don't need you, when they're busy, when they're having movie night. Here's how you do it. Put your kids in charge of creating a special evening for their parents, for you. Yeah. If your kids are too young to cook on their own, prepare something earlier in the day and make a plan. Have your little ones set the table with flowers and candles, put all the food in easy to carry bowls, and let your kids serve you. Tja. Allow them to then eat their dinner wherever they want, in their room, on the blankets, like a picnic, okay? Or let it be their movie night, while you two, you and your spouse or your partner, dine together alone. Mm-hmm. I think that's pretty good. It says kids are really into this because they pretend to be your server. They refill your water glass, bring you food at your request, and it's a great way to model love and connection to your kids in the importance of spending quality time with your spouse. Of course, this will not be as quiet and serene as a night out alone, but it's a ton of fun. And it's a great way to let the kids feel like they're part of this scenario, that they've done something amazing for you, and make sure that you say thank you and you praise their efforts. Even if that cup of coffee was more like a cup of dishwater, okay? Praise their efforts. Yeah, just saying. Just saying. Okay, so number nine. Number nine, there's only two left. Number 9 is take turns planning meals. That's a good idea. If you have 3 people in the family, 3 people each day will pick a meal, and they will prepare that meal, and you will eat that meal. Doesn't matter what it tastes like, you eat it. And at the end of that meal, you say, oh, I'm telling you, that was the best meal I ever had. Yeah, try that. I think it's good because it mixes things up a bit, and it makes planning meals exciting for the family as a unit, right? And a lot of the times the kids will be thinking about it all week. What am I going to make for supper this week? I'm going to find a recipe. And they're going to start to learn to investigate, to research, to learn what food is good to eat and what food is not good to eat and how to cook it. Okay, so these are all skills that they need to learn for their adulthood. So it turns learning into fun and into that family dynamic. Okay, so last one. Oh, wait, I have to add this to the meal one because it says um, part of this could be that you take a trip together to the farmer's market or to pick out the vegetables for the meal that they have planned, right? So have them make out a grocery list for their night that they're cooking supper and take them and help them shop for it and teach them those budgeting skills, right? So you say, here's $20. You go pick out the vegetables that you need with $20 and go with them and follow them and teach them how to tell if a fruit is fresh and if a lettuce is fresh. Teach them how to clean their food, how to soak it in baking soda and water in order to get 97% of the pesticides out of it, those things, right? So you're teaching them little skills here and there. And that's what it's all about. That's what parenting is all about. And like I said, I made my mistakes. I'm not perfect. But pretty close. Pretty close. Okay, number 10. And this is the last one. And it says, have a plate to share. And my cat's spending time right there. I can't show him. Wait, I'll show you. Say hello. Say hi. Say look at. Say I come see my mommy. Okay, so now he's sitting on the book. Can mommy read the book, please? Thank you. We're going to sit, mommy. Okay, so it says, have a plate to share. This is a fun idea, she says, given to me by Beverly Meyer of Primal Diet. Modern health and a wonderful way to introduce new foods to the family without making a big deal, right? So at mealtime, you place a large tray or several small plates in the middle of the table with small piles of different food items. Some suggestions would be olives, cubed or sliced vegetables, bell pepper slices, artichoke hearts, leftover pieces of steak or chicken, small pieces of cauliflower or broccoli, celery sticks, or anything with bite-sized pieces. And consider putting guacamole or another dip that perhaps you created with one of your children prior to this, okay? Um, and put it on the table. So that's a way of introducing new ways to eat foods, new ways to focus on what is nutritious in their diet, okay? And it teaches them, introduces new foods, and it doesn't really make it obvious. It doesn't make it, it doesn't take the fun out of it, okay? So those are the 10 things that it talked about for how to connect with your family, your children, and how to teach the skills that they need. And back in my day, we used to have home economics, and now I don't think they have it, but we used to have home economics and woodworking, and I took all of them. I took all of them. But you know, most of the skills that I learned from my mother-in-law. I learned them from my mother-in-law. I learned them from friends and things. I learned them from my aunt. I learned how to make pickles and homemade bread and how to ferment food. And you know, there's a lot of things that I learned just by watching TV. Yeah, by watching YouTube, by watching certain channels that did those things, okay? And so now I'm not a homesteader, but if I could be, I would be. If I had the land and if I was living somewhere where I was able to grow my own food, I would do that in a heartbeat. And I did. If you look back on my previous videos, you will see that I did have a little bit of a garden on my patio, and I grew my lettuce, my radishes, my onions. I grew things like that on my patio, and I ate them. I showed them. So anyway, I just thought this was a fun way of connecting with you today. And I wish you a wonderful day, a wonderful evening, and spend time with those kids of yours, because you know what? You're going to miss it. When it's all said and done and they've grown up and they got families of their own and they're off doing their own thing, you're going to miss the hell out of it. So take advantage of it now and teach them what they need to know. But they also need to have those boundaries very firm. So I shall see you on the next video. Namaste, my friends.